Okay, hi everybody. I'm Gila Glassberg, registered dietitian and certified intuitive eating counselor. And tonight I am interviewing Nava Fox. And Nava and I go way back. We're good friends, and we also have a common, I guess, mission slash passion in life to help people heal their relationships with food. So if you can introduce yourself, Nava, go for it.
Sure. Thanks, Gila.
Mhm.
Hey, my name is Nava Fox. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I have been in the field for 8 years now, worked in multiple different locations with different populations, with children, adolescents, and adults, families, couples, in the firm community, outside of the firm community, in many different, venues. And I love that we have this platform to talk about people and their relationship with food, their just all the layers underneath, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack. There's so much more to it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
So right now you treat people with all different types of diagnoses and including eating disorders.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Got it. So tonight, I guess I wanted to just delve into the topic. If you don't mind sharing a little bit how you became interested in that very, very vast topic.
Sure. Yeah. I can't really explain what got me interested. It was just something that really spoke to me. I think, when people say I'm so depressed or I'm so anxious and people throw around terms like that, or like, oh, you totally have an eating disorder. Like people throw around, mental health terminology and diagnoses right and left. But I think what really spoke to me was, you know, other diagnoses we can't necessarily relate to because like until you're wearing those shoes and you're in that boat, you really can't fully experience what someone else is experiencing. You can try to empathize and understand, but when it comes to eating disorders, you also can't fully be in the other person's boat. But what I like is I really feel I can connect more with clients because we all have to go through daily choices of what we're going to eat.
Mm-hmm.
We have those thoughts of how do I look today?
Mm-hmm.
Or how does this make me look?
Right.
When we look in the mirror, we all have an automatic reaction. So I find that in that sense, I can really relate and understand a part of what people who are struggling with disordered eating go through. And I find that a lot of the thoughts that, someone with maybe an eating disorder might have are thoughts that people who, technically don't have eating disorders have, like,
Mm-hmm.
when you're PMSing or you had a really bad day or you made a bad business decision and you lost money for whatever reason, and then you just emotionally want to eat, that feeling is something that a lot of people can experience, not just necessarily like a binge
Mm-hmm.
a binge eater.
Mm-hmm.
Now it doesn't necessarily have to have that label on it. I think that it's a relatable emotion. It's just the behavior has, I think has to reach a certain point in order to become like a diagnosis.
One second, Nava, you froze on me. Sorry, you froze, Nava. You there?
I see your lips moving, but I don't hear you. Okay.
You see me now?
Yeah, now you're good.
So what I heard you say, and I think I heard you say this, up until we got cut off, you're saying like everyone interacts with food on a daily basis. Like we have to, no matter what, whether or not we have disordered eating disorder, we all have to make some form of choice about our eating. So it's sort of like, and like you're saying, like a lot of us will, let's say, emotionally eat or use food to cope with our emotions. So the person with an eating disorder and the person without an eating disorder might be very similar in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because like I actually just blogged about this, like whether or not you like this, you have some form of relationship with food, just because like you're a human and you have to eat. So
Totally.
you know, a lot of people are like, wait, you're a dietitian, you don't do weight loss, so what do you do? And I'm like, well, I help people heal their relationship with food. And then that could be like that phrase in and of itself could be so like triggering and loaded for a person, because they're like, wait, that doesn't make any sense to me, because it's like I eat so healthy, or like I whatever it is, I exercise so much, or I care so much about my health or my weight. And it's like, but like it's almost like a perfect segue into orthorexia, because like we were just talking about, orthorexia is actually the obsession with only eating quote healthy food to the point where it's unhealthy. So you're just like, you won't go out with your friends because you're not sure what the food's going to be like, and you're the type of person that's like interrogating every single waiter, like the worst customer ever. And it's it hasn't made it to the DSM-5 yet, I've heard, but it is on its way.
Right. It's talked about in the eating disorder field. And it's interesting. I heard you say, like, you said health and slash like weight.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because I was actually, a client was just talking to me saying how, you know, a family member was saying that, you know, they're concerned for her health. And I asked her what that meant. And what the family member was not saying is they were unhappy that she looked overweight, but they used the word health to cover up her weight.
Yeah.
I think that it's really important to differentiate health and weight.
Yeah.
Because two very different things. They can be connected, but they are not necessarily connected.
Right. Yeah, that is like a common theme that I talk about with my clients and in general, but it happens to be that this new book just came out called Anti-Diet, written by Christy Harrison. And she's definitely like spearheading the intuitive eating movement and the health at every size movement. And I'm just learning so much from that book. And just, even though I know a lot about intuitive eating and I practice it and I use it in my practice, I'm just learning so much about like how maybe our weight doesn't have so much to do with our health, and maybe like the world at large is obsessed with healthism, which sounds almost like a conspiracy theory. But when you read about the research, it's like, right, like the diet industry is benefiting so much from telling us like how unhealthy we are by being a certain weight, when like the reality is like if you change like your shoe size, you can't. No matter how hard you tried, you couldn't do that safely. So it's hard, because I think that we're all so like under the belief system of like, yeah, if you tried hard enough, if you weren't so lazy, if you had enough willpower, then you could be a size 2. But like the reality is most of us women are not a size 2, and there's a reason why.
Right.
So just I don't know, I love when people like know this, and I think that even like if it's the first time they're hearing it or the second time they're hearing it, it still takes like time for it to sink in, and you're really more like planting seeds. But I just want women to know in general, like it's not really you, it's really like diet culture telling you like you're not good enough in this size and like you have to shrink your body. And to the point where there's so many people being diagnosed with orthorexia, anorexia, bulimia, like to the nth degree that we'll go to get our bodies to be a certain size, to the point where we're really not living anymore and we're living to shrink our body.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of causes to lead a person to come to a state of such, whether it be just despair or self-hate or just loneliness. You know, it could be many different feelings, but I think that there's so much pressure, both in the media as well as in, you know, in the religious community that we're living in,
Yeah.
To just look a certain way and to fit a certain mold that, you know, not everyone was created to fit. So,
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, you know, we can't change our shoe size.
Right.
So, you know, but yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure. I think there's a lot of anxiety, and people are just not expressing it and coping with it, like you said, in a way that benefits them in an unhealthy way, right? And
Right.
they're restricting.
Yeah. Well, eating disorders, I'm not an expert in eating disorders, but I know just from the classes that I've been taking and the courses I've been doing, like
Oh,
there's for someone to get an eating disorder, it's almost like a perfect storm. Like
mm,
there's so many different things going on, like genetics, mental
mhm.
components,
Yeah,
environmental, diet culture,
yeah,
and sometimes it's not all those things, and sometimes it is like the combination of all those things. But it is
yeah.
really, really more complex than we know it. But like I just wanted to touch on this when you said the religious community. I
Mhm.
actually thought about this before. I've wondered why is it that eating disorders are so prevalent in the Frum community, the Orthodox community.
Mhm.
And this is my own theory because I really thought about it, but I want to hear your opinion. But I wonder if it's because like we don't have like enough outlets. Like we don't watch TV, let's say. Maybe some of us do, but let's say some of us don't, or we don't have sports. Like I grew up going to high school with sports, so like eating, like the foodie world or like the dieting world has just taken on this form of like a hobby. Like it's
Mm.
like the only thing we have to talk about already.
Right. Like
Does that make sense?
people use the phrase let's do lunch.
Right,
It's not like let's eat lunch. It's let's do lunch.
right,
Right? Let's lunch even I've heard.
right.
Right. So I definitely hear you in the sense that there's and that's definitely a possibility. I've heard that, in other areas that, let's say in boys' high schools, that they may turn to other drugs,
Mhm,
alcohol, substances or whatever to just get some sort of escape
mhm,
because there's not enough outlets. I'm curious also. I don't know why it is. I also think a lot of it has to do with self-worth and self-esteem.
mhm,
I see a lot of codependency in the firm community, and I've read about it. We grow up from a young age. If we're lucky to grow up with a mom, and we grew up helping her, getting ready for Shabbos, getting ready for Yontif, getting ready, set the table, get the kids brush this one's hair, throw away the diaper, and like we grow
mhm,
and it's great. It's part of childhood, and for those of us with families or with siblings, it's great. It's fun. But then at a certain point, it kind of crosses the line of healthy to the point where there's some sort of codependency that's created that your self-esteem as a child becomes dependent on being needed, on being helpful, on
mhm,
that attention from your mom or
mhm,
whoever. And there's a lot of that codependency in the firm community just because of the culture of Shabbos is weekly, Yontif is at least once every 6 to 8 weeks. There's something, and
mhm.
just you're a necessary part of the household. Um, so I think that self-esteem in the firm community is something that's lacking, honestly.
That's interesting.
That's a core issue that could lead to many mental health struggles, but I think included in that is the eating disorders that when you reach a certain physical goal you could feel like you fit in, you could get that attention. People will turn around and look, people will say, wow, you look great.
Right, right. Actually, that's a good point because I've heard people. I've asked so many people like, why do you want to lose weight? What does weight loss represent to you? And a lot of them have said it means I'm successful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. But it's actually something like that I think about a lot when it comes to the frum community. We as a religion, um we don't value aesthetics that much, right? Like the aesthetic body. Like we value like taking care of your health and not taking your body for granted, but like to the point where it's become like an obsession of like how skinny we are and how we look. That's not a Jewish value.
Yeah.
And it's just like I'm not here to judge or point fingers at anyone or any like systemic problem. I'm really not. But it's just like, it scares me or like saddens me to think that like we've gotten to a point. And I don't think it's anyone's fault. I really do think that it's at large diet culture just like shouting in your ear, like if you're not skinny, you're not worthy. And like I said before, like the diet industry is worth billions of dollars per year, and like for good reason, meaning for them, like they're benefiting off of telling you like, if you just lost weight, you'd be happier and you'd be healthier and you'd feel better. And like if we really think about it and we really like give a good look in the mirror and we think about all the diets that we've been on and how lousy we feel and how actually dieting could really lead to weight gain because of all those years of slowed metabolism, that you're trying so hard and you're on that hamster wheel of something that's actually just getting you the opposite result, you know? So I just want, like, who's ever listening, I just want them to know like they're not alone. There's so many people who are steeped in diet culture, and there's a reason why, and you don't have to be. Like there really is an alternative. And like what you're saying, Nava, like this low self-esteem because of codependency. So where do we go from there though? Like what's your recommendation on, like, I guess using codependency in a healthy way, because that could be a really beautiful thing, that there's like that structure in a family.
Well, I think codependency in a healthy way is just, like love, love, trust. If two people who have a healthy self-esteem, who know their worth, regardless of anything else external to them, and just know I am a human being with a soul. I'm a good person. I love myself for who I am. You know, if you have two people who have those positive vibes about themselves, dealing with each other, there's less of a quote unquote dependence. It's more of a, an interaction. It's more of a shared experience as opposed to like a need or a dependency. I think when we use the word codependency, it's because in both people there's something that's lacking, and therefore they latch onto each other to fill that void. And that's really how the codependency feeds itself, because then it feels so good when you're together, or when that void is filled, and when you feel needed, then it furthers the cycle, and then that gets passed on to your children and then to your grandchildren, and it could very easily look like such a helpful family. Oh wow, your daughter is amazing, she cleared off the whole table, like she's so helpful, look at her. And meanwhile the daughter just so badly wanted to hear that compliment.
Right.
She didn't even know that that's what she needed, but either becomes automatic, just seeking that validation, seeking that self-esteem boost, and that's kind of how the cycle continues. So it's difficult. I think the first step I usually take with my clients is just to become aware. First, you want to look at your life with clear lenses. You want to clean away any residue, anything. You want to take your glasses, you want to wipe them clean. You want to take a clear look and see your reality for what it is, not for what you've been seeing it as, and just take a look. Sometimes it could be painful, it could be difficult, it could be very difficult. But the first step is to just see it for what it is. Gain awareness, look, and then from there you seek a professional to just help guide you, help hold your hand along the way to become the best version of yourself that you can be. We all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses, and it's okay. I think as long as we have the awareness to keep going and to keep trying and to keep doing our best.
Interesting. So basically you're saying that an eating disorder could stem from this like low self-esteem, and one of the reasons why people have low self-esteem is because of this dependency, that their worth is tied into how much they help around the house or how much they have power.
Mm-hmm.
So how does one, like, I guess, work on their self-esteem? Like if that's the core problem of their eating disorder, how would you like recommend going about that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that's a lot of what therapy is about.
Right.
Like therapy. I think that most people could use a self-esteem boost.
Mm-hmm.
We don't give ourselves enough credit for the hard work we do, whether it be a mom, whether it be a mom and someone who has a career, whether it be like anything that we do. We need to give ourselves credit, more credit.
Mm-hmm.
That's a side point. I could have a whole separate meeting with
That's
it.
also like a cultural norm, I guess, related. Like we're talking about diet culture. That's also like a very normal. I don't know if it's a problem or just a theme in life that we're hard on ourselves or we don't give ourselves enough credit. I don't know if it's because like Western society that's telling you to always keep working or if you're taking a break means you're lazy. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, I think that they're related actually because it's all about expectations.
Right.
If if you're expected to look a certain way, then you feel pressure to look that way.
Right.
If you're, if you're feeling an expectation to behave a certain way, you're going to behave a certain way. So I think a lot of our behaviors and a lot of our thoughts are easily impacted by what we feel expectations are.
Right.
So what you said about codependency, so I just want to clarify, codependency is not necessarily always the reason. It could be a reason for low self-esteem, which could lead to an eating disorder.
Right.
I think it's something that's not spoken enough about in the frum community, and I don't think many people are aware of it.
I've actually never heard that, so it's really interesting thinking about it.
In terms of building self-esteem, I think it's really, really, really important to list positive affirmations a day.
Mm-hmm.
I've done at different points in my life just to give myself a boost. Because you know what? When you see 50 to 100 to 200, like you see a growing list of positive things about yourself. After a certain point, you almost feel like, oh, it's so hard. Like I feel like I did everything. Like you actually have to dig deeper, and there's so many different layers to who you are, and there's so many different facets. There's physical, there's emotional, there's spiritual, there's the growth you've made, there's the impact you have on others, there's your accomplishments. There's so much to who you are that we don't take the time to really think about because we're running, we're really always busy, we're on the go, and we're moving. And I think that's great. And I think at the same time, it's very important. So I like the 2 affirmations a day, just to remind yourself how awesome you are.
I love that.
And if you're not there yet, to just even start searching, start looking at yourself, not just in the mirror. That's not who you are. That's your external portion of who you are. That there's so much. That's the peel. That's it.
Right.
And then there's so much out there. I mean, there's self-help books. There's a lot of great authors. There's a lot of great therapists. But I think the first step is to really recognize that you could benefit from a little boost.
Yeah. And I also say this a lot, but eating disorders, or disordered eating, it's sort of like what's it called? Let's say like the safety net from like really getting into like your deeper values, right? It keeps you like stuck, but you are engaging in those behaviors or those excessive intrusive thoughts so that you don't have to think about like, what's my purpose in life? How could I do better? How could I show up better in the world? It's almost just like easier to be thinking about food 90% of your time, right?
Totally.
So that's like when I first like discovered that in my own like intuitive eating journey, like when I was like first practicing it, I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense because thinking about food and thinking about your body takes up a lot of time and emotional energy. And like sometimes it's easier to think about than like your fight with your husband.
Totally.
So I think that like you made a really good point about like low self-esteem and where it might not come from food, but wherever it comes from, like if that's like the root of the issue, even 2 affirmations a day can make like such a huge difference. Like it's just about really taking action, and like the first step awareness, and maybe the second step just like what could I do for myself? What could I do that can move me forward in any way?
Totally. You can't drive with an empty tank of gas.
Right.
So even if you fill it up a tiny bit, you have something to keep you going. You need it, and the goal is to really just keep growing and to keep trying to feed yourself, and I use the word feed not in a food way, but to really nourish yourself.
Right.
Give yourself what you need to be the best you can be. And that's not always food.
Right.
Not always what you know it to be. You sometimes need to expand and search and dig and read and learn. And then you develop new, almost like coping skills and other ways of being that could really benefit you in your life and can make you feel more comfortable and happier and less stressed and just more, and be able to enjoy your life and be more present.
Yeah. I know that when I like ventured into the world of self-help, like it just like broadened my view of the world, and like it brought me on like this like, amazing journey, and like I'm always like learning, growing, and whatever. Just like I remember like, I first read like The Surrendered Wife, let's say, and then I read The 5 Love Languages, and then I think then I read Intuitive Eating, and then I read I don't remember. I read like a million books at this point. Feel the fear and do it anyways. And like that book led me to this book and this podcast and this person. And I was just like, wow, there's so much out there, and you don't have to like consume it all. You don't have to like digest it all. You might not like all of it, but like there really is like, and there's so many, like Brene Brown wrote a book, It's Not Just Me, where I thought it was just me. Like we all think we're the only ones going through it, but like inevitably other people in the world are going through these things.
Totally. And that's a very important piece. And I think that talks to the loneliness, the feeling that sometimes lead a person to just take some control, to just be, and to just, which could it's another emotion that could lead to, eating disorders, or that is associated with eating disorders. Someone who could be so lonely that they just need some sort of control, some sort of something, or even like, to just feel such low self-worth. They make the loneliness mean something that they don't feel worthy of all the food, or they don't feel like they should. Yeah. I don't know if that made sense, but there's so many different layers.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Like I don't feel like I'm not good enough to eat. Like I don't deserve it, or
Right.
I did something bad today, so I have to starve myself. Or if they were starved as a kid, like
Yeah.
for being, let's say, quote horrible, but let's say they were quote like punished by taking away food. That could just be them self-punishing.
Yeah. Yeah. Which leads to guilt and shame and
right. I was just gonna say that. I was just gonna say, talking about Brene Brown, we obviously have to talk about shame. Like. And that, like, I've had so many people in my office, like, they're hysterically crying about something to do with food, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, you're the 5th person today. Like, of course, like, I need to, like, replace my tissue box, like, every day, like, we're all human, and, like, I always try to empathize and, tell them, like, I also struggle with that, like, I do this work all the time, and I'm a human living in the world, so we're all in this together.
Totally.
So, do you have anything else you want to add?
I think we're gonna have to wrap up, but there's definitely more, Gila. There's a lot.
I want you to tell everyone where they can find you, because Nava just started her own practice.
Yes, thanks so much. Yes, and my website is let me first share the name. The name of my practice is Solutions Psychotherapy, located in Lawrence. You can go on my website at navafox.com, or you can try solutionspsychotherapy.info. You could reach me at either way. You could create an initial consult. You can get my contact information from my site. I take a lot of insurances. Feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help you along the way. And I feel very passionate about helping the firm community, about helping the world, and making us all helping people enjoy their lives a little bit more.
That's amazing.
What it's about.
That's amazing. I also am passionate about helping people feel better about themselves and moving forward. Okay, thank you so much. This was really informative. I learned a lot.
Thank you. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.